we'll go by that one there. That's coming right. That's the
It's
old
happy hour. It's just like happy in here.
And we got that recording.
It is going.
Good, good.
Very good. Mhm.
501. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start our meeting. We'll start with our invocation, please. Everybody rise. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of our community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Kevin, can I ask you to do our pledge?
Yes, sir.
Outstanding. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
All right. Madam Clerk, could you go ahead and do our roll call, please?
Absolutely. Mr. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Merritt.
Here.
Ms. Powering. Present. Mr. Stryker is absent, and Chairman Rega.
Here, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as this is a special meeting, it will be held as a quasi-judicial meeting. So for that reason, we are only going to take care of the one agenda item that we have here today. First of all, thanks for attending this meeting, and we really do appreciate the fact that you all have an interest in what goes on in our city. A company called Coastal Acquisitions of Florida is seeking approval for a major development of a metal roll forming company to generate metal roofing and siding here in Parker. Tonight's meeting is quasi-judicial, so please be advised that anyone that comes to the podium will be sworn in by our city clerk. This business does fall under the newest LDRs and ordinances, 2024-421, under light industrial provisions of the Parker LDRs. Light manufacturing, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. The location would include the following parcels: 25,870,000,000, 25,869,000,000, and 25,838,000,000. Respectively, the affected parcels are off of Business 98, East 2nd Street, and West Streets. These parcels are currently vacant lots in the general commercial districts and sub-area 1 of our CRA. With the exception of the applicant, those who wish to provide their thoughts tonight will be given 3 minutes to do so. Kevin is going to go ahead and run our clock, and that'll be 3 minutes after you're done being sworn in. We will start with the applicant. Mr. Santora, can we ask that you come to the podium here today? And if you don't mind, sir, we do have some new planning commissioners and some new people here in the room. If you'd be so kind as to provide them with a general summary of what your business will look like, we'd really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
My name is Philip Santora. I'm the owner of All Metal Building Systems, Coastal Acquisitions, and I'm also the owner of North Star Engineering, who submitted the plans. We appreciate the opportunity to come back before you again. What we are requesting today is an approval of the same set of plans that was previously approved, but now under the new LDR. So this development is a 28,000 square foot building to be used to roll form metal. And that is to be able to sell to the public. So that is our request for today.
Very good, sir. Do we have any questions? Do any of our planning commissioners have any questions?
I do, Mr. Riga.
Yes, please.
Good afternoon or good evening.
Yes,
my
ma'am.
name is Ann, and I'm new to the commission and not intimately familiar with what it is you're looking to do. I've spent the day perusing the documents, but it's a little overwhelming, so forgive me if my questions are basic or have already been asked.
No problem at all, ma'am.
I do see that direct access, depending on the type of vehicle coming on your property, that axles, 4 axles or more need to have direct access off of 98. Has that been addressed? Is that something that's already been addressed? It's something I'm reading in here.
It would actually, I think the verbiage is more than 4 axles.
Oh, I'm sorry, more than 4 axles, forgive me, okay. Is there direct access off of 98?
There's not direct access off of 98.
Okay. In page 2 of their comments we're reviewing, it just says, the property must have direct vehicular access to a state or federal road or highway without the use of any city streets for deliveries by vehicles having more than 4 axles, such as deliveries of raw materials or finished products. So that's what prompted the question. So it does not
Appreciate that
presently?
clarity.
Okay.
Appreciate that clarity. Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions? Mr. Santoro, if you don't mind,
I
I'll
would
just
like
kind
to
of.
reply.
Oh,
to-
please do,
to
please
that,
do, please do.
Because I'm not willing to say that it's not going to be more than 4 axles off of that. I was approved prior to this without that noted. That street is being used by other people who has more than 4 axles coming and going, and I'm asking for the very same thing.
Very good. Very good. Couple of things with regard to the new light manufacturing rules here. It does meet all of the, I believe, the 5 criteria under light manufacturing for waste, obnoxious odors. These are some of the new ones that we just posed, Mr. Santoro. Temperature, pressure, hazardous material, and noise. So all of those will be below those thresholds.
Yes, sir.
And I know that the building size is maximum to be considered under light manufacturing is 30,000 square foot, and I believe we're under that.
Yes, sir.
At the 28,000 square feet. And would you tell us a little bit about what there was, particularly the first time around, there was some strong concern over flood mitigation. And I know all of us poured over the core sampling, the style of soil that was there, and it all, quite frankly, looks favorable. Do you mind kind of telling the group about, the dry retention ponds and some of the other things that your organization is going to do during the building process?
Yes, in requirements for the development, we have to do stormwater detention and both treatment and pre and post. So that has been carried out by the use of detention ponds and retention ponds on the site, meeting the requirements of both FDEP and the City of Parker.
Yes, sir.
So we have made sure that we've met those requirements. Your engineer has reviewed those documents, have approved those documents that we've met those requirements.
Yes, sir.
And so we've done everything that we believe that we need to make sure that we are being an asset to the city and an asset to the neighborhood.
And I think 3 engineers have actually approved it, right? Wasn't it Nova, your own, and Anchor? Is
And
that
Anchor.
right? Okay, very good. I just happened to notice that Nova
We-
was who did the geotechnical engineering report, because they're the ones who actually did the core samples and
That is
everything.
correct.
Very good, very good. And then we know that this is in a CRA area, sub-area 1, and of course the mechanism for that is that be some of the best places whenever construction goes in, that we do things like put in downward facing lighting, fantail driveways, consistent colors with buildings, things of that nature, that we provide foliage and trees and barriers. Do you mind telling the group a little bit about what your plans are there?
As previously stated and as per the plans, we're willing to meet those requirements.
Yes, sir.
We're willing to put in the required trees, shrubs as requested. We've even gone as far in this situation as the city has asked us to install a new water line all the
sir.
way from 98 all the way down to our property, put in a new fire hydrant, and we've agreed to do that. At this point, we've actually already given the city an easement
Yes, sir.
because of the prior approvals So we've given the city an easement for that water line. We will install it, but it will be the city's water line, but it will be on our property, is the reason that we provided the easement.
Yes, sir, I saw that, and thanks for providing that easement. Oh, yeah. Very good. I think it was signed actually back in March of 2024, right? Very good, very good.
One of the other things that I think was, it has been large during the whole conversations through these years, is the, what's gonna be on inside the building, what's gonna be outside the building.
Yes, sir.
The purpose of this 28,000 square foot building is so that we can have everything inside the building. We will store everything, all the materials that come in will be stored, all the, everything that's produced will be stored. Everything is stored inside the building.
Yes, sir.
And so, previously I showed pictures of our facility in Dothan. This is a mimic of it.
Very good, very good. And in a commercial area, you're allotted up to 60 foot. This building's gonna be well under that at 24 feet tall,
Yes, sir.
so much shorter. That's good. And it looks like all, particularly with regard to the water line, the 8-inch water line, I know the city approached you with that, and we sure do appreciate you alleviating that cost for us, because the Parker citizens would have to be responsible for that if it wasn't for this. And so you're gonna put in that 8-inch water line and,
Yes, sir.
right, oh,
And
outstanding.
new fire
Very
hydrant
good.
as requested.
It looks like, usually when something this large goes in, we really have to kind of pour over the impervious details, but it looks like you're well under that at just 44.65%. You're allowed up to 0.7. And
Yes, sir.
you're well below that. And the floor area ratio at 0.22, so we're well under the 1.5. That's outstanding. And you're in a FEMA rating X. And the reason I'm mentioning these things is because I attended all of those prior meetings, and once again, there was concern over flooding. And when we look at the fact that that's Lakeland sand, which drains off immensely well, it's one of the better sands to have when you're concerned about the prevention of flooding and the absorption of water. And then when I believe you had 6 taps, is that right? 6 bores in that, 6 bores?
Yes.
And 4 of them at 15 feet, 2 of them at 10 feet,
Yes, sir.
and not a single one of them hit water.
No, sir.
That's what I saw. And that was back in October, right, of 2023?
Yes, sir.
And I happened to check the weather at that time, and it wasn't a particularly dry time. So the fact that that soil drains off, I think, is good news for everybody. The other thing too is it's 0.8 parking spots per 1,000 square feet, which you could have gotten away with 23. It looks like you're exceeding that with 25. Really, I think the only hitch in the get-along might be, how do you suppose we might deal with the deliveries of the more than 4 axles? Is there a way to kind of navigate around that issue until it can get figured out, or what are your thoughts about that? Because it sounds like under the new rules that are here allowing light manufacturing, we're no need for variances or anything of that kind, except for this one thing. So if there's perhaps some thoughts about what we might do in order to
I-
kind of sleep at night, we would sure be appreciative here.
I'm not willing, and I've not been willing the whole time to stand here and tell you something that's not the truth.
I appreciate that.
And I'm not gonna do that again today.
I agree.
And if a guy sends a truck down here that's got 5 axles and I don't know about it, and I get a phone call that you're breaking what you said you was gonna do.
Yeah,
And so, most of the deliveries will probably be on 4 axles and less,
yeah, yeah.
okay? I'm not going, but if a truck comes down here with 5 axles,
Yeah,
I don't wanna come back here in front of you and say I lied to you.
I appreciate that, Mr. Santora, thank you. I think,
Conversely, the city, if you were to violate that provision, the city may have to take some recourse at that
Absolutely.
point in time. Or if that becomes a continuing problem, you could theoretically come back and ask the city for a variance at that point in time.
yeah,
But at this point, this is for a development order.
right,
That's more of an operational issue.
yes,
And so, I think that from a development order application standpoint,
That's not gonna affect
that's
him
not gonna
building his
affect him.
building.
But from an operational standpoint, if that does occur, you just need to be on notice that
Yeah.
the city may have to take some action, code enforcement or otherwise, for violation of the LDR. That's all.
And it may
Well,
be
I'm not
something, it may be something that the planning commission undertakes, because I've been made aware in looking at this, that Winn-Dixie deliveries occur all the time. And they do not occur off of Tyndall Parkway. They actually come in off of the small city streets. So technically, and they've been there a long time, so we might need to rethink that to make it easier, so that when we have circumstances like Winn-Dixie or like Mr. Santora, that we're in a position where we're not forcing people to violate a rule that may or may not make sense, depending on, existing businesses that are already doing it.
Right.
Just a thought.
But
Okay.
it will be
Yeah.
some time before Mr. Santoro certainly is
Oh,
in a
yeah.
position
Yes,
to get
sir.
deliveries one way or the other, so.
And I think the
As we-
reason we didn't originally believe, Mr. Santora, that this was going to have impact is because, do you have a manager by the name of Brad? What's the name of your?
Chuck Orlowski.
Chuck, okay. I believe there was a statement about the style of delivery vehicles being like primarily pickup trucks with trailers. Is that what I
That's-
remember?
That is pickup.
A pickup truck? A pickup?
That is
Not
pickup,
delivery. I
not
got it.
delivery.
Okay, I might have
Yes.
misheard that. Okay.
Again, most of the deliveries are on smaller, but every once in a while, you may get
Yeah.
because the people who sell us the large coils
Yes, sir.
outsource sometimes.
Yes.
They don't always use their own trucks.
Yeah.
So they may outsource it.
Yeah.
And I guess I should have took the picture.
Yeah.
I pulled around my lot just then, and I'm standing on my lot looking across the road at the equipment place, and there's trucks in there with 5
Yeah.
axles.
Mr.
Okay?
Santora,
They come in the side of that,
I have
on
to,
that
I have to
same
call a
road.
timeout real fast because I failed to do something. This is a quasi judicial meeting and I failed to ask our clerk in order to swear in this witness. So can I ask him to do that at this time? And how will that affect us?
You can, and then I'll ask Mr. Santoro a question once you swear.
Will you swear in this witness, please?
Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you are giving is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you, sir.
Santoro, all of the statements you've made thus far, would they be the same as they were when you made them under oath?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Sorry, Mr.
No,
Santora,
that's
that was
fine. I should
entirely
know
on
that.
me. Entirely on me. Do we have any other questions from any of the other commissioners? Please.
I do have a question. So will this building also have metal siding as well on the exterior?
It will, yes.
And then I actually have another question, which you may not know, and that's okay if you don't. But do you know the estimated tax income that this will be for the city?
We presently do approximately $400,000 worth of sales a month.
Well, but the taxes for the city, while that's interesting information for you guys, that's not relevant.
Okay. But I think it's important to know.
Yeah, how it benefits the city,
how it
yeah, in
benefits
some
the
way,
city is part of
absolutely.
this.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
then,
point.
Mr. Chair, whenever you're ready, I need
Yes,
to
sir.
make sure the record is clear as far as what is in the record, so
Mhm.
that there's no question about that, so.
Very good.
But you have
Very good.
additional questions,
May I circle back on one more thing?
Please do,
And-
Mr.
and
Santora.
I think it will be partly to some of your question. And why are we wanting to build the building where we're building it? Okay? And this was a large part of the previous discussions. Okay? We own from the front, and so there'll be lots out front. I want to be able to take those lots and do things more with retail, offices, that kind of thing in the front there. Previously, I showed some pictures of what we've done, I've personally done in other places, okay? And so I want to do the very same thing there, is so that when you come down 98, you're seeing more of a retail opportunity coming across that front there. That will be, our building is going to be aesthetically pleasing,
Yes, sir.
but can be even more to that and inviting.
Very good.
I drove the property on the way here, and it is a great site for what you're proposing. I did notice there is direct access off of 98 in the front right corner. I have no idea, maybe that's north, I don't know. But there is direct access off of 98. A little bit of a small driveway, got a little bit of a pitch, and I don't know if that is a value, just to throw that out there, if that could be expanded to accommodate those trucks, or if that would interfere with the retail aspect that you're talking about.
No,
So-
ma'am,
Okay.
It would interfere with future.
I gotcha. To have truck access there.
Yes, ma'am.
Understood. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
One extra question, if I may. In the business description, it says metal roll forming. I'm under the impression you're receiving preformed metals and then forming the finished product of roofing, siding, et cetera? Or are you actually manufacturing the metal rolls?
No, ma'am. We were receiving in
Got
what
it.
we call a coil
Okay,
of metal.
Mhm.
It goes into a thing and it gets shaped.
understood.
Comes out the other side as a shape.
I took the liberty of looking at some videos online so that I would be able to form my question with some knowledge.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
It's a
thank
good
you.
question. Very good question. And I am looking at your landscaping, so thank you for that. It looks like you're gonna put in about 13 trees. It looks like there's just one oak that's gonna have to be removed for the building of the building itself. But it looks like you're gonna, and it's not that you can't take trees out, it's just that we're asking that you replace them, and it looks like you're gonna put a bunch in. So you got 13 trees going in and over 40 3-gallon shrubs to go in. That's gonna be along the front with regard to your retention pond to the west, it looks like,
Yes.
and then your retention pond to the south as well. Very nice. Very good. Mr. Sloan, what questions did you have, sir?
Well, first of all, I want to make sure that the planning commission and of course the applicant understand that this is a new application that's being considered on its own. There were statements made by Mr. Santoro in a previous application, but this is a whole new application. You're considering it fresh. Now, having said that, for purposes of just making sure the record is clear, what you all are looking at, and what you have access to, the record includes Mr. Santoro's application from December. That application included a number of things, a geotech report, actually a copy of the easement that Mr. Santoro was talking about earlier, which was recorded by the city. It includes a number of drawings, a site plan, the entire packet of his application would be part of the record. The next part of the record is are the engineering reports and responses. That there were a number of different submittals made in response to reviews by the engineer. All of those reviews and all of the responses would be a part of the record. There was a stormwater study, as Mr. Chair pointed out, that was included in the application that was reviewed by the city's engineer, and it includes additional items that the city staff had as a part of the review of this application, and any other records that the planning commission or the city council would have before it at the time of making either a recommendation or a decision on this application.
Very good. And then also on their, on his actual reports there, they did identify on the actual site surveys, the water line that Mr. Santoro is gonna be putting in for the city here as well. And it's a little hard to see, but it's actually identified as PROW, so that's why it's a little hard to see on there. Very good. Do we have any other questions from the planning commission?
What are the hours of operation?
They are 7 to 4.
good. Well, listen, I'm going to ask the audience members if anyone here, thank you, Mr. Santora. Paul, would you like to come up? Okay.
Go make sure you swear
Paul,
in.
we-
I'd like to mention
let-
that in the past, we have not limited people during public hearings a 3-minute limit.
Yes, we have, Paul.
Yeah, that's not true.
Let's go
Okay.
ahead and have them sworn in, and then the
Don't
3
start the
minutes will
timer
start
till
after
sworn.
the, after the swearing in.
I, Paul Palmer, 1135 West Street,
Do you swear?
former member of the Planning Commission.
Okay. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is
Yes.
the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So I'm gonna have to cut this short then because of the 3-minute limit, which I think is inappropriate. So just yesterday, I came across a legal notice regarding tonight's Planning Commission. I'm gonna talk fast, but it will keep it recorded so you can read it yourself. For an application for major development, 909 West Street by Coastal Acquisition of Florida. At the top of the legal advertisement, it says notice of public hearing. I feel like I'm in Groundhog Day. This is something we went through 2 years ago, and we're going through it, the same thing again. All meetings, special or regularly scheduled, must comply with the reasonable notice requirements stipulated by Florida's Sunshine Law according to section 28.6.011 of the Florida statutes. Any meeting of a public board or commission where official acts are to be taken must be open to the public and reasonably notified. Furthermore, Florida Statute 163.3225 mandates that notice of intent to consider a new development agreement, which according to tonight's agenda is what we're considering, should be advertised approximately 7 days before public hearings in a newspaper of general circulation, yada, yada, yada. Yet, upon searching the Panama City News Herald legal notices, I find no evidence that the ad for tonight's public hearing was published. Additionally, the same Florida Statute 163.3225 states that the notice of intent to consider a development agreement shall also be mailed to all affected property owners before the first public hearing. This raises the question, were letters sent to inform property owners? No, I did not receive a letter. And also, they're supposed to post on the site what is supposed to be done. Sorry, my mouth is getting dry. Look at the city's notice, these details were not included. According to the article from the Florida Attorney General's office, action taken in violation of this section 286.0111 or any Florida statute is void and would have to be reconsidered at a properly noticed and open meeting. A knowing violation of the Sunshine Law contents misdemeanor. Additionally, the package uploaded by the city did not include the EPCI evaluation. That's critical. We have a new application. We have new rules that are supposed to be considered. I implore the Planning Commission and that you need to cancel this meeting and rehear it after proper notification. Why this is important to me? Because with 1 day's notice, I was not able to bring in my court recorder. I was not able to bring in the hydraulics, which would rebuke some of the effects of what he's talking about on the water. I don't have time to talk about all those things. I'm not able to refute some of the things he said about the traffic. So therefore, you're violating my right for a fair notification process. I cannot help but wonder why the city is rushing to do this with, once again, not notifying. Some of you are aware that I currently have a lawsuit against the city for the exact same reason, lack of following the procedures. I wonder what the judge will say when we show up with another case of exactly the same violations. Thank you for your time.
Paul, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I point something out?
Please do.
Mr. Palmer has cited section 160 or chapter 163 provisions relative to a development agreement. What you are doing is not a development agreement. You are reviewing a development permit application and determining whether to recommend the issuance of a development permit to this applicant. You are not and have not been asked to take a look at a development agreement. That's a totally different animal than what is before you tonight.
Let me just go ahead and expand on that, just because sometimes the devil's in the details. Mr. Palmer is exactly right. If we were reviewing a development agreement, that is very different from a potential development order. And the state has weird definitions for everything. But if you were to go to the state or call Uthmeyer's office, the replacement for Moody, she's now our Congress lady, you would find out that they would tell you that a development agreement is, let's say, for example, that Gary, let's say you wanted to build 30 homes. And the city said, you can build those 30 homes, but we want you to build a park alongside of the homes. That's a development agreement. That's so Mr. Palmer's definition is correct, but the understanding was just a tad off. This is a development order, a potential order to allow an individual to build a project, essentially, not an agreement between us and a builder. So thank you for your thoughts, Paul. Would anybody else like to comment, please?
Also, statute, section 288.011 also says that as long as it's an emergency meeting or something, a special meeting, that we need to give at least 24 hours notice or a day.
Yes.
286.
Yes, and just so everybody does know,
So we are within.
municipalities have what they call home rule, and home rule covers a lot, but if anybody would like to look it up, if you go to our own rules that we have selected for the city and we adhere to, anytime a major development is coming before planning, and this is the requirement for planning, and this is under public notice and participation. If anybody wants to look it up, it's 6-3.5 under public notice and participation. It says application for development permits, all meetings of the Planning Commission or City Council in which applications for development permits are to be considered shall be duly advertised. So I didn't know what duly advertised was, but I was interested 2 or 3 years ago when something like this came up. So I called Ashley Moody's office and said, what is duly advertised? And they said, generally it's 24 hours or more. And we said, is there an actual legal definition? And they said, no, but we can tell you that we would, as long as you provide 24 hours of notice for special meetings, we would abide by that, and we would recognize that as a non-violation. So, Candy said we want us to look that up. Yes, anybody else? Yeah, Pat, please. Pat, if you'll state your name and your address, and then we'll have Ingrid swear you in, please.
Patricia Fosick, 1344 Stratford Avenue.
And right hand. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. First of all, Mr. Santor,
Thank you. Sorry.
I admire your perseverance. I definitely do. And Mr. Palmer, we've been friends for a long time. I respect your concern. I know many of us had concerns. But I think what I'd like to do is more, I do have a couple of questions, and let me get to those first in case I run out of time. I did have a question here because Mr. Rigo brought up the CRA. Thank you for remembering that. And Mr. Santori did point out that he still plans to proceed, although I understand it's not part of this order. This is a new development application, but you do still plan to proceed with that, and I think that's great. I think that'll benefit the city as well. What recourse, Mr. Sloan, this may be a hypothetical, and I'm certainly not getting into the code enforcement thing, but let's say we do have some truck issues. Would possible recourse for the city to be a request for help with fixing the roads or something? I don't know. I don't know how that works. But I just sort of toss that out there to say that I think that's what many of us are concerned about, is the wear and tear on the roads, not to mention, you know, the fact that it meets the definition of light industrial, not manufacturing. But, you know, it is a little different because there are many of us that bought here and envisioned this area being downtown. And that's why I greatly appreciate and respect that you will hopefully still move forward with the retail office space. I think that's great. But one thing I did want to put on the record for those here, not here, that may watch the video, because I've been at all the other meetings where this has been discussed, and I'm very outspoken. Everyone knows that. I do see this as a new application. It's new application, signed and dated. There's no mention, of course, about the retail. Mr. Sloan made clear some very important points, I think, and that was that the record, if you will, includes EPCI and Anchor's report. They were not on the website, but I have multiple copies of them from before, so I have to say that information is available. Mr. Santora did say that it is the same structure, if you will, as the first application. I didn't want to go through all the pages and read them page by page. My eyesight is getting worse as the days pass. So I want to say I'm not a proponent, but the Planning Commission and City Council changed the rules, good, bad, or indifferent, whether we agree or not. They changed the rules, and I'm very thrilled to see that Ann pointed out the 4-axle thing. 10 seconds. The 4-axle thing, because that is the only question that I really had remaining, other than the process, the notice, all the rest of that. Mr. Sloan, you explained something I did not know, that it was with regard to development order agreement, and I never knew what a development agreement was. Thank you for explaining that. I've been to all these meetings, never knew. So, while I'm not a proponent of the building, no disrespect, I welcome you to the community, I need some of your services, but in that area, council and the Planning Commission, I guess, did what they felt they had to do, what they felt was right. And
Thank you.
I would
appreciate
only,
your time.
again, encourage, because there are some of us that are very outspoken and very by the book, that we do make every effort to make sure that notice and complete documents and all of that is
And
made
thanks for
available.
coming up. I mean, just.
Thank you. I'm sorry to take too
no,
much time.
I appreciate, the constructive thing of working through a solution rather than just saying no, and the solution might be exactly what you just identified. Hey, if we've got heavy trucks that are harming the roads, that we get a new road. And that's the kind of thing that's very reasonable and
So,
very,
thank you.
especially since we're just coming up a block or so. Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak before the Planning Commission? Yes, sir, please.
I'm Gary Hard, 725 West Street here in Parker.
Give me one
Just-
second, Gary.
I'm sorry?
Right hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Just to pass on to the committee here, from a retail standpoint, I have done business with his company. Very good company, good product. Their customer service is excellent, and they also give discounts to Parker residents. I don't know if everyone knows that or not, but I think that's a plus. I mean, hey, you're gonna be in the town, might as well work with it, and I'll take a discount anytime I can. But anyway, the man has jumped through hoops, multiple hoops. Yeah, I came in a little late, but everything that I have seen, I've seen his other facility up in Dothan, and it is a beautiful building, and I think it would be a very good enhancement, and I'm all for getting the tax base increased. So I wanted to share that with you.
Gary, thank you for your
Okey-doke.
comments. We appreciate it. Thank you. Gary, yes. Name and address, and we'll have Ingrid.
Gary Brannon, 1034 Brannon Place.
And,
And Mr. Brandon, do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I've been living in Parker for about 18 years now. I have some 5 different homes in the city and 8 acres of land, one of the largest tracts of land in the city. I put everything, a lot of my real estate in Parker because I like this little city. Business 98 is Business 98. We've got all kind of things on this street. I'd like for it to be like an all retail 30A, but it's not gonna be. It's got Parker Inn, it's got single wide trailers, it's got the place that just took over, the tree service place, which has, like he said, big trucks going in and out of that same street. I'm very proud of Mr. Santora for what he's had to go through with this city and all the negatives from people in this city that want something there that will never be there. The people that develop land, they look at what should go in certain areas, and there's nobody in this county that would put what the people want in this city in that area. It's just not for it. Nobody's gonna put a 30A business in there when it won't bring the customers. I really respect him for staying in with Parker and not just walking away from Parker. I'm really blessed that he stood up and he's back here fighting for his business instead of saying, I've had enough with this. These lawsuits, people don't realize when people sue him or sue the city, they're suing me too. Because when they sue the city attorney has to fight this, which he's on our payroll, which everybody in the city is paying for these lawsuits. So every time somebody wants to sue somebody in the city or the town of Parker, they're suing everybody in Parker because it comes out of Parker funds. But I just want to thank him for standing in here and staying here and not walking away. A lot of people would have just walked away. Anyway.
Gary, thank you for your comments. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, ma'am, please.
Gloria Beers, 1313 Stratford Avenue, Parker.
Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am. I've sat through many of these meetings with Mr. Santoro, and he wants to bring something to this city that will help all of us. It's not going to be a forward-facing building on 98, business 98. It's going to be in the backside. He's offered to build something on the front that will give us more revenue, even if they put offices or beauty parlor or anything in there, a pizza place that would give us more business there. And the question I have, and I think from prior meetings, is that everybody's talking about the truck. How often is a truck going to come down that road?
Maybe once every 2 weeks.
Once every 2 weeks, you got a truck coming in. They're going to roll down there, unload, and they're gone for maybe the next 2 weeks. With the new service that's there on the corner where the tree service was, there's trucks rolling in and out of there all day long. Big, heavy equipment coming in. And it's probably going to be more of that because he's increasing his business footprint. So what Mr. Santoro is trying to do is give us a nice place to look at, more business, which gives us more revenue, which gives us more ad valorem, which lowers our ad valorem. So to be worrying about a truck that comes in once every 2 weeks with a big roll that they're going to drop off and then they're going to be gone for another 2 weeks, I think is a little crazy.
Yeah.
So we needed to address that because everybody's stuck on the truck, whether it's 4 axles, 5 axles, or what.
Very
It's
good.
once every 2 weeks. It's crazy. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Very, very nice comments. Paul?
So on these truck issues, first of all,
You're already sworn in. Let's go ahead and,
so on these truck issues, I had a talk with the people who run the rental business at the end of West Street. And they no longer are bringing their trucks down West Street. They have a direct access, they turn in and they pull out. We had a problem. I showed them pictures of their trucks parked along the street waiting to get in. They took care of the problem. So I just would like to correct that. Secondly, on the issue of the water, you know, your work may well be okay, but we had a situation where Joe Hoffbauer talked about the effects of the purging, the sparging from the pumps that were used to do help me, the pollutants from the underground gas wells, okay? So he delivered that report and he said that because the sparging wells were operating and pumping air, the groundwater table may be perturbated and may look like it's further down than what it is. Now, after our conversation, I had those wells shut down. They have not been operating since he had taken his measures. So I would think, since he's made a statement, he wants to be a good neighbor, that he should at least go ahead and drill a couple of wells to verify that the anomalies that he noticed with the wells being that the water table is so low may not be accurate. Now, it may still be okay, but we're talking about a very significant piece of construction. So those are my 2 cents worth.
Thanks for your comments. Would anybody else like to come to planning here and offer your comments? Pastor, please. And Pastor, I know we still have to swear you in as well, even though I know you do it every day.
We're human, okay?
Your
Danny
name- your
Davis,
name-
922 West Park Street.
And do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. I'll be your closest neighbor. Yes, sir. And I want to say that I went to your guy that runs the shop for, what's his name? Chuck. Chuck. And all he wants to do is to be a part of this community. He come to me and said, let me tell you what we can do for the kids of Parker. And that's what we really like to, we really help Parker School and help the kids of Parker. He said, Mr. Santora was going to join in. We're going to do some great things for the kids of Parker. We got some great plans, and I'm excited to have him next door. And my holding pond has not held any water yet, okay?
Pastor, thank you very much for your comments. Appreciate it.
It's there for the looks. That's it.
Very good.
I got the top of my shoe wet one time.
Would anybody else like to have any comments? Very good. All right, well, planning commissioners, what I'll ask you for is a motion to pass this along to city council with your belief that it should pass, a conditional approval, or a denial. I'll ask for a motion at this time.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve. I have a motion on the floor to approve
It'd be a recommendation.
and a recommendation for approval to the city council. I'll ask for a second. I'll second.
And that
Madam-
would include the standard conditions that we put on any development or.
Yes, sir. And just a quick legal question, Mr. Sloan. Being that all of these light manufacturing are conditional approvals, do we have to do anything special with our
No,
motion?
Once you recommend approval, that is a recommendation.
Very good. So I have an initial motion. Thank you, Ann. I have a second. Thank you, Kyle. Can we get a vote, please, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Merritt?
Yes.
Ms. Powering?
Yes?
And Striper is not here. Chairman Riga?
Yes, and I know you've been at this for a couple of years. I'm not sure exactly who said it, but they said thank you. It might have been Gary. Thank you for your to the two Garys. Thank you for your perseverance. A lot of people wouldn't have hung in there like that. Now this still has to go to council for their final approval, but we're praying for you. Thank you. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and we'll end this special meeting.